Hello and welcome to today's IncrediChat. I am Michael Gracia. Mike Lopez will be joining us in a few moments. Right now, though, we got a really great guest, a good friend of mine. Her name's Diana Leto. She is a fantastic artist. So let's just not waste any time and bring her in. Hi, Diana. How you doing?
How you doing?
Doing good. Doing good. So, for those who aren't familiar with you, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, some of your work that you've done, and let's start with that. Sorry.
Sure. So I'm an illustrator and a designer. I worked on a lot of different comic books, including Tarzan, The Halloween Legion, and My Little Pony.
Awesome.
One of them that I worked on. I drew
Yep.
variant covers for My Little Pony from IDW.
Okay. Cool.
I also work on a lot of different toys and style guides, including work for Sesame Street.
Nice.
So this was a drawing guide that I worked on. You help with
And
illustrations.
okay. Is that something that you've done recently, or that was a while ago?
My first start was at Sesame Street, and then I started working at the Jim Henson Legacy, and I've also done work recently with the Jim Henson Company. So there's always a little bit of Muppetness over here.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And you're a fan, though, I assume, right?
Oh
yeah. Yeah, you have to be a fan to do that stuff, right?
Jim Henson is one of my role models, and will always be.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I remember, and I don't know if I've ever told the story on air, but I used to get bullied a lot as a kid, and especially in those days it wasn't cool to be a geek. But the day after Jim Henson passed away was the one day my bully did not bother me because he was so upset Jim Henson died, and we actually connected over Jim Henson, and for the rest of the year, and even into next year, he kind of left me alone.
Wow. That's a testament to the effect he had on everybody.
Yeah, definitely. We got Mike Reese just coming on saying good evening. So hello, Mike. So who were some of your other inspirations that you had growing up?
Well, it's interesting. I just moved. I have you in my art studio, which is finally together. Just a little while. But I can take you around the room. I have Shane Glines up here. I love Shane Glines and Bruce Timm, of course. Jack Cole. Ooh, I'm so bad at your background.
Yeah, what?
I keep going the wrong direction.
Oh, you know what? Here's the thing. I'll give you the whoops, I did that again. Sorry, not you. I hit the wrong button. I'll give you the screen so you can show you have more that you don't have to worry about rolling.
Oh, great. Okay, cool. So if I just roll you around, I have all sorts of artwork. So this is just a piece from college that I worked on.
Very nice.
This is a independent comic that I'm working on. That's all India ink. Up here is a moose head. Speaking of Jim Henson, I created that out of paper mache from the Jim Henson studio. Jim Henson actually had a moose exactly like that in his studio, and the only difference is his was orange and mine is white. This is my drawing board. It's just covered with inspiration. I'm trying to think. There's a Disney book here. I have some printouts from Steve Rude, who I work with sometimes. Just all sorts of things, and then of course some of my pinup girl stuff.
Yeah,
it's part of my identity.
Yeah, you do a lot of guys. We've used to have tables next to each other at shows. In our kids sections that we would do, and I got to say, number one, I miss tabling with you and having you at shows. It's been it takes a while. Once you're so used to doing something, it takes a little bit to get used to not having that person there. And you were such a regular at the shows I would do, so it was a little hard doing shows for a while.
Yeah, I know. I miss you guys, Mike and Mike.
And we, but that was one of the things. Like when I would have my table next to you, I'd always you'd be flipping through the work, or people would be flipping through your work. I'd just sit and watch your work. I was always amazed at the stuff that you're putting out. Still amazed what I see on Facebook and everything. So
yeah, on Facebook I try to at least a few times a week just draw something just for fun, because I like to tell everybody that even though this is a really cool job, it's still work. So even though you're going and doing something that's creative, something about someone saying, "Here's your deadline. This is what you have to do," makes you not want to do it.
Yeah,
So I always
definitely.
do a just for fun piece a couple of times a week, and I post it to social media.
Yeah, yeah. No, you have to do that. I think it's important. I was talking with another artist. God, I forget who it was. On one of these streams, and they were saying that, yeah, I'm doing all this work all the time, but I try once a day to
Yeah.
just knock a drawing off for myself, or even if it's his warm up drawings or whatever. It's just they
Yeah.
have to. You have to do something for yourself,
Yeah,
and
totally.
it's important. It's important. I was going to bring it up later, but since you mentioned Steve Rude, you said you work with him.
Yeah, so
He's-
I met him a few cons ago. I'm currently working on a booklet for him for 2020, so that's exciting.
okay.
So that's part of my design work where I do publishing and help guides and
Hmm.
graphic design. So I do a little bit of both. And he also mentors me in all of his illustration because I consider Steve Rude one of the geniuses of our time.
I Yeah, I have to disagree. And not disagree. I mean, I have to agree. He is.
No,
I'm
no,
sorry.
he's
I was going to say I don't disagree, but came out wrong because I'm such a fan
Mhm.
of his work. I follow him on social media. I watched his documentary that came out, which did you ever see?
Yes.
That was a good story about him. Told me some stuff I didn't know. But his work is just gorgeous, and it's one of those things like you look at, and I don't really want to compare it to Alex Toth's work, but it kind of has that feel where there's that simplicity in there, but he just builds it up so much more, but still keeps it simple.
Yeah.
You know, um,
It's
as
funny. I have a bunch of his books out right now while I'm working on some comics, and I will say, "Oh, I'm looking at your Batman. I'm looking at your Batman and Superman comic," and he'll say, "I was looking at John Gadam when I was drawing that," and I go, "Were you?" Like, I think I might have, but he'll always say, "I went back to an illustrator from the 30s or the 40s to get the very fine little details that are in there." So whenever I speak to him, it's interesting to hear because he doesn't he will look at all realms of art, and then you definitely have that Rockwell feel when you look at his artwork. It doesn't feel cluttered, but there's not a piece of space that's not used just for. I mean, if he has black space, it's there for a reason. If he has a little playing card in the background, it's there for a reason. Every little detail is accounted for.
Yeah. So let me ask you, what's it like being mentored by him?
It's very intimidating, and scary. But he's also a very good teacher and quite. I think he mentors a few people, and I think he doesn't take the same approach with any of them, which I think is really good because when you teach people, something might fall flat with one person and not with another. And it's nice that he will accommodate to my needs, and it's very inspiring, scary and inspiring.
Yeah. How long have you been? You said a few years now. It's been that you've been working with him like that.
5 years.
Five.
Yeah.
Wow. And
I think we took like a year break when I had my son.
mhm.
And then, I also moved to California, so there was a lot going on. But so maybe 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you're getting, I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't want to, but like how when you start getting mentored by him, someone who is, that level,
Sure.
and obviously, like you said, it's a little scary, it's a little intimidating.
Yeah.
But how has your work? How have you seen your work change from when you started with him to where you are now because of him?
Well, the one thing that he's done for me that unfortunately I haven't had teachers in the past, although I know there are very good teachers out there, is he will specifically ask me what I'm interested in and then try to teach me through those artists that I've looked to in the past. So, trying to think. So he knows I love pinup, so sometimes he'll teach me through pinup girls. But then, of course, I can apply um, Gil Elgren to any piece of art. You just have to start thinking about the way you would diffuse something, or how the posture is going to be, and draftmanship. But to answer your original question, sorry, I would say that he taught me the importance of draftmanship, which I don't think I was really taught prior to this. And I would have sort of tried to skip a little bit ahead, and he really would say, you can just take your time, go lightly, go softly. And I always felt if I did that, I was wasting time. And now I know I'm not wasting time when I do that.
So you're getting more. So he kind of brought you back to a little bit of foundation to.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
but
good because
just to let me know it's okay if it takes you a little while. It's okay. You don't have to rush it. You don't have to. His analogy was, do you drive a stick shift? And I said, no, I don't drive a stick shift. He goes, okay, well, do you remember when you were riding a bicycle? And so he'll switch it up because I don't drive a stick shift. He goes, did you fall off your bike the first time? And I said, yes. And he goes, so did you quit riding a bicycle? And I said, no. And then he said, so you have to do each little step at your own pace. Yeah. And I thought that was really great advice.
No, it is. It is. That's great. I'm just curious, since he, have you done any type of mentoring or thought process in the way that you would work with people because of how he's worked with you?
Yeah. Specifically, I have actually here on the drawing board. I just did something for the Girl Scouts of America, although that's not in relation to Steve Ruth. But one of the things I do when I'm working with graphic design is I always work with a mood board. I don't know if anyone saw me.
I'm going to bring up your screen again. So,
sure.
Okay, so you're the colors right there. So you're getting your mood through color.
Sure. So you can create mood boards for colors. You can create mood boards for textures. This was a mood board inspired by nature. So I essentially went out into my backyard and picked up pieces that inspire me and glued it to this board. Now, a mood board can be anything. It can be pieces of paper that you rip out of a magazine, or it could be a collection of things you put on Pinterest. It can be digital. It can be tactile. Yeah. But just to get you to something that sets the mood, and that is something I love teaching younger generations, because I personally didn't know that you could start there. That goes back to the whole skipping steps thing, where you can just take time to figure out what the tone is going to be, or what the colors are going to be, or what the structure is going to be. And that in itself is part of the creative process. So when I was showing the Girl Scouts of America this, I just showed them how it inspired me. I had some fairies and things up from Fantasia from my Disney book. And I just started drawing a fairy for them there.
Yeah.
And I'd like to teach younger generations that it's okay to explore and to make mistakes, or it's okay to not finish something.
Yeah. No, that's great. I want to give just a little say hi to Joe Ryan, who's one of our regulars. He's watching. He says hi. And just so you know, because Joe may ask some questions, and he's someone great that to for the questions that you're saying, the stuff you're saying right now, because he's a recent grad within the last 2 years of the Kubert School. So he's just kind of starting his career. And he loves listening to us when we have artists on. I mean, he loves all our stuff, but he loves talking to the artists. So I'm sure you'll ask a question, hopefully. And yeah, but I like that idea of the mood boards. I never thought of using one, but I don't do it. Number one for me, like just talking about what you were doing with color, I'm colorblind. So, I'm shade blind. I see colors, but when they start blending, I have trouble telling them apart. Okay. So, for me, I work in black.
Spider-Man noir.
What?
You're Spider-Man noir.
Yeah, basically.
Spider-Verse.
I work in black and white mostly, and and when I add color, I usually tend to go for a bright palette because that's what I see well. So I have trouble creating other kinds of moods and things like that. But
so do you go by textures and shapes?
Yeah, sometimes. my coloring, I mean, I have an animation background, so my coloring is very cell shaded. So I kind of think flat colors, put the flats, and then add the shadow and maybe a highlight here or there. I don't really try to do a lot of blending of shadows and stuff. When I draw traditionally, if I'm using Copics and I'm toning first, I could do shadow because I can get that shadow and then go over it in color. And
interesting.
Yeah, so I work differently depending how what medium I'm in.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah.
But it's interesting to see that and to have those ideas of just creating a board based on something to inspire you for the project to kind of help keep you going is something I might have to start thinking about and considering. And even if it's just texture based, and I'm thinking, hey, I built a robot, what kind of shiny metals or roughness or something. So that could be interesting.
It's funny because I don't just create mood boards for paintings. I create mood boards for any of the graphic design I work on too. Mm-hmm. So I recently did some work for Hasbro on the Trolls 2 movie.
Okay.
Ooh, I almost had it in my bottle of water. So I recently worked on these cool little toys here.
Mm. Ooh, excuse me.
It's
okay.
Like
what? No, I had a little burp. I didn't want to say. Sorry.
You're good. So I helped create these little packages.
The box. That's nice. So it's like a little guitar, right?
Yeah. So I don't have the mood board here, but before we even got to this process, there were weeks of what colors are we going to use, what's pop. You don't want it to look like the first Trolls movie. You want it to look bright. It's also about diversity and everyone coming together, and of course pops of rainbow. So I mean, we had mood boards, and it was fun because on the team, everybody had different types of mood boards. Some people had really dark black colors for the Barb character with little spots of red and gold. And then another person did crazy pop stuff where it was bubblegum and cutesy and rainbows and poppy, And it's just interesting to see where everybody went. And then in a corporate atmosphere, you hang all the mood boards on the wall, and then everybody sort of discusses the strengths and weaknesses to see where you're going to go to get to this end result.
Yeah, it's nice though. I like that stuff. What?
So not just artwork; it can work for products design. There's so many different outlets.
Yeah, but and that's the thing. Just because you may love something. A lot of our fans, obviously, cartooning, comics, things like that. There are other skills that you learn when on your way to becoming that cartoonist or whatever term you want to use, illustrator, that does expand into other fields. I did graphic design like full time professionally for 7 years, and I still do it on freelance occasion. Joe Ryan has a question. He says, you had mentioned just now that you work for Hasbro, graduating from Cuba. So yeah, I already mentioned that you graduated. But yes, do you have a question about Hasbro for her, Joe, or anything?
While he's asking a question, I'll just say when I was in college, I had no idea how many creative jobs there were. So I would just say to anyone who's aspiring cartoonist or illustrator or anything, don't think that there's just one specific job. There's a huge team of different people, and once you start working in the field or just freelancing or anything, you start going, oh my God, I can't believe I could do this, and you don't realize really where your skills are going to go to, and that's fine. It's fun to sort of explore.
Yeah. I'm actually going to be starting tutoring someone new tomorrow. So this is actually kind of a little inspiring. I mean, I kind of work a little bit like you were telling Steve works. So, for example, if the person wants to do graphic design, I'm going to find out what kind of design they're interested in, and we'll base a product. Or if they want to do an animation and we're using the Adobe suite, well, before you get into Adobe Animate or Adobe After Effects, what are the programs? What are the steps to get you through those other programs? So I'm kind of like that, and keep their interest as long as they can get a portfolio piece out of it. So yeah, I'm actually excited to meet the person tomorrow. But what you're telling me is very just inspiring. Like, I didn't think of that mood board. That might be a nice piece to add to get to get into the projects, to create a board of something that helps inspire them. So I might take that from there.
I thought they were silly at first when someone brought it up to me, and then I use them all the time now. I remember when I was teaching a course once on mood boards, and I don't think I could see the look in their eyes that I had when I first heard it. I thought, this is silly, but no, everybody does it, and it's really helpful. But I remember thinking it was not helpful at first.
Yeah. I think I mean, it's smart. I've never officially used one in my work, whether it was comic work, graphic design. I've never officially done packaging design or worked for that type of stuff. I've always been more of graphic houses. They bring me everything I need, and I put stuff together. But we'll probably come back to some of the stuff, especially if questions start coming in. But I want to talk about some of the projects that you've worked on. Let's start with Tarzan, because I'm just a Tarzan fan, and even behind me, I got some of the Tarzan collections, like the Russ Manning stuff back in the old newspaper. Yeah.
In the background.
What?
I think I see a Russ Manning in the background.
Back there, no, it's more over there on that bookcase.
You're much better on the camera than I am. I like your mini too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no, behind me, actually, the superheroes are the Garcia Lopez stuff from his style guide from the DC. They're posters that were made from the DC style guide from the 80s. I got a Mighty Mightor from Hanna-Barbera. I don't know, James Earl Jones autograph is Darth Vader. You know, yeah, just tons and tons of stuff. Everywhere I look in here, I mean, I'm hooked up. Hold on, I'll disconnect real quick just to show you something, because I think you'll enjoy this. Right around here on this side, I got my Red Hot from the Droopy cartoons. Her dance, her dance number that Preston Blair did, and it's a print of it, but yeah, it's
every time I look at Preston Blair, I go, yeah, I'll never get that good.
I know. I still, I don't know if you saw my post the other day on Facebook. I think it was last night. I went to bed reading the Jack Ham, how to, cartooning the head and figure book.
Oh, but I've not seen that one.
You've never seen that one?
No, I should pick it up.
It's like the old, very classic. It was I got it. It originally came out in like 67, I think, and I got it in like 84, 85. So I don't know what printing it was, but I don't know if you remember when you were in New York. I don't know. You were born and raised in New York, right?
Yes. Flushing.
Okay. What?
Flushing.
Okay. Do you remember, I think it was in Portchester or in Rye, they had the cartoon museum?
Oh, I vaguely do remember that, yeah.
Did you ever go there?
Vaguely.
Yeah, I went there as a kid when I was like, I don't know, 8, 9 years old. And I my very first book I bought as a cartooning book for myself. I bought there, and that was the Cartooning the Head and Figure by Jack Ham. And I still have the book. The pages are a little yellow from age. And if Mike was on, he could talk to you. I could run into my bedroom and get it, because that's where it was last night. I don't want to leave this empty for a moment. But I mean, I also have the Preston Blair cartoon animation. I still go. I mean, I go through all the old books. That's exciting. Yeah, I love doing that. So anyway, we were sidetracking from Tarzan. So tell us a little bit about Tarzan.
Sure. So for Tarzan, I worked with Edgar Rice Burroughs on their digital strips, and I worked on The Cave Girl, which was exciting because that's a female lead, and very reminiscent of Wonder Woman, because it's about a gentleman who crashes his plane on an island, but of course, in The Cave Girl, it's a boat crashes on the island, and then he meets a woman who is stronger from another land who basically saves him all the time. So that was fun. I was sort of drawing the Edgar Rice Burroughs Wonder Woman character for a while. And then I also did the coloring for Carson of Venus. And then I got to work on this graphic novel for Dark Horse Comics, which is Jungle Tales of Tarzan. I was the art director and one of 12 illustrators in the book. Actually, I think there's like 18 illustrators, but there's 12 main illustrators for 12 stories. And it's a prequel to Before Tarzan Reached Fame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I read that one. And that was by Dark Horse, right?
Yeah, it's really exciting because each story, Edgar Rice Burroughs, they're all philosophical. So the one I worked on was Tarzan's First Love, because he doesn't yet realize that he is a man. He thinks he's a gorilla. So this at the point where he is in love with one of the gorillas there, and he fights another gorilla for her hand, and it's really poignant. And each story is like that, where he learns a valuable lesson, philosophical lesson.
I'm gonna have to. I know I don't own it, but I thought I've at least looked through it at a comic shop, or maybe even at a con if you had it. But I have to pick up
copies. I'll send it over to you. This one was exciting because this is my copy, and this one was one of the ones that was embroidered. Embossed on the front, which was nice for me.
Let me ask you this one, because I actually had a conversation with my friend and I were talking today, and we were talking about Tarzan and the Disney's interpretation of Tarzan. Just out of curiosity, what were your thoughts on that movie? being someone who's worked in the world of Tarzan.
For me, I think it was a little different. There are a lot of Edgar Rice Burroughs fans who weren't thrilled with Tarzan. But I loved it. But I also didn't know much about Edgar Rice Burroughs when it came out. I was younger, and I saw that was probably one of my first exposures to Tarzan. But the nice thing about that is then you went and picked up comics for Tarzan after that. So even if it wasn't a Disney one, so you get more familiarized.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not in my top 10 Disney films, but I do really like it. But a lot of people felt it went a little too stray from the original story.
I agree. I mean, they did things in there that weren't officially, they have to change it, for kids and family entertainment. Disney does that to everything.
One thing I wish I had done, and is that I wish I had kept Jane blonde, because when you read the story, you can see that that's kind of what made Jane stand out, because he never saw a blonde woman or such. So I always thought that's kind of interesting, but I did like the way they did the relationship between them in the movie. That was clever.
Yeah. My thing and my point when talking to my friend today was we were discussing his design, and I actually really enjoyed his design. He was, my friend was saying, I didn't like the idea that his hair was very almost dread-like, and I'm like, but he never washed his hair. He never. He never really groomed outside of like gorilla grooming.
Like this, a lot of people.
And I'm like, that was kind of smart. He didn't learn that he's got to walk correct. So I like that aspect of it. So we were kind of disagreeing on that part.
Common arguments.
Yeah. But let's move on to another. What?
No, it's cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's move on to another one of the projects that you've done. Let's talk, because I know you did a bunch of stuff with My Little Pony covers. Do you want to talk about how you got into that and My Little Pony in general for you?
It's interesting with My Little Pony because when I was younger, it was there, and then it had the resurgence come about. So I was a big fan of My Little Pony as a kid, and then when I started watching the new show that was out, I thought it was really smart. I don't know if you've seen any episodes, but it's for the adults and the kids.
Yeah, I understand that. I just wasn't the target audience. I know that. So it wasn't something I got into.
There's a lot of Star Trek in it,
What?
There's a lot of Star Trek in it,
Oh, no, I didn't realize that. My wife, though, she enjoyed it. And she would watch it. I mean, she didn't watch it like religiously, but if it was on, she would stop and sit and watch, and it just wasn't for me. I tried.
Well, I sent in some of my artwork for My Little Pony, and essentially I just sent in as many sketches as I could because I really wanted to be a part of the property. And I was unfortunate, and I liked the work I did, and I got to do varying covers for them. So here's one of the ones I did for New York Comic Con, which was exciting.
Yeah, bringing in. Oh, yeah.
Nice. Some of the more obscure characters. And I will say that IDW is one of the best companies I've ever worked for. They're great. And they are all about supporting creators and their process and being open to new and different ideas, which as a creative, I can't help but admire. And then I was showing this one for San Diego Comic-Con.
Yes, I remember that.
This one is a parody off of Labyrinth. Where this is the Jennifer Connelly character, and then this would be the Discord would be David Bowie. So that just shows a little bit of how flexible they were with us drawing the covers, and I appreciate that.
No, that's
Jim Henson and him always doing spoofs. I love drawing spoofs and having puns. I don't think they're corny. I think they're great.
Oh, I'm the same way. I love making fun of stuff in a silly way,
Yeah.
What about let's
I know I do so much. It's
yeah,
hard
you do. And
about.
you know what? I want to wait to talk about Sesame Street when Mike comes on because he's a big Muppet guy, so I don't want to take away the Muppets from him. And I mean, I love the Muppets. Don't get me wrong. I'm a Jim Henson geek. I love all that stuff too. But that's like Mike's domain. So let him focus on the Sesame Street stuff. We could talk about a few other things. Actually, let's talk about something we were talking about earlier. Before we went live today, do you mind if we talk a little bit about this guy and what it's like learning from him?
Sure. Well, I don't really. I've just taken some of his classes online, and I see him.
Oh, you're doing the online classes. I thought you were going.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, Steve Root is really my mentor when it comes to
Okay.
Yeah, but Steven Silver is amazing and a wonderful artist, and I'm very fortunate to have met him. And I would definitely suggest his live drawing sessions that are online. They're very helpful, and he's always has something new to say. And I've done a few of his sessions, and nothing really repeats itself, which is great.
Oh, that's great. So I didn't know he did actually online stuff. I thought his stuff was all like in-class, in-person classes. So
maybe not so much right now.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm gonna have to look into them then.
Yeah.
So no, he's because for those who don't know, Steven Silver is like the I would call him the king of character design if you could. I mean, that guy knows character, knows movement, knows everything that is to like sell that character,
Sure.
So let me just what happened here? I'm sorry, I'm just trying to move on to the next thing on the next screen here. I thought maybe we could take a look at that artwork that you sent me.
Oh,
that
sure.
we can talk about. So let me just share the screen and share screen 2. And here we are. You want to tell us a little bit about what's going on here and what this is for?
So I was just looking up the title because I don't want to.
Oh, okay.
So this is going to be upcoming from ComicMix. It's going to be Crisis on Our Only Earth, and it's part of an environmental anthology that I'm working on with Barbara Kessel. And this is not the whole comic, but I thought it'd be fun to show my process. I work with the writer, and basically the writer will tell me what they're looking for. And then I will draw a bunch of thumbnails, which you can see on the left of the screen, just exploring what the character would look like. And usually my first few are pretty rough, and it will go from there to something different. Yeah. And then in the center, you'll see I have a more finely tuned pencil sketch for one of the panels. And once I get the approval from the writer on that, I will do some coloring work and see how they feel about the coloring. And actually, it's been updated since because they had completely different. She had a completely different take on what the color should look like, and she was completely right when she told me her perspective. And I hope you'll pick up the comic and see what I mean. But it's very. I love working with teams, and especially amazing talents like Barbara Kessel and before this Adam McGovern, because you get to sort of just discuss these fun processes and discover how to make it better together. And that's part of the wonderful journey that I love working on comics for. And then once I got an okay on where the style is going to go, I'll start drawing rough thumbnails, which is the far right-hand corner. And these can be pretty loose, as you can see, just to get an idea of, how are the panels going to flow? What is the composition? What's breaking out of the panel? What's the color going to be like? Can you set a tone with the way the layout is and where the color is going? And I think it's really started to come together, and the writer was very happy with it, as was the publisher. So that was exciting, and I'm glad to be a part of this because I do think global warming and environmental issues are something that we need to talk about. what better way than through comics? I would argue that you could use comics to educate yourself on anything.
Yeah. No, I always say number one, to me, comics are the greatest medium because as long as you have, you're limited to your imagination and your skill with a pencil. If you can draw it, you bring it to life. You can go to whatever world, tell whatever story you want to tell, and that's one of the reasons I love working in the comics field. As long as I have a good story, I don't have to do. Not that I don't want to do great art, but it doesn't have to be fantastic art. It's just give me a good story.
Yeah.
You obviously bring great art to your stuff. I've always been a fan of your work. Can I just ask you a question though? Because, and I don't know if this is a design. Obviously, it's a design thing, but is this black here that's opening up down here? Is this something that they're driving away from, or is that empty space where text would go here?
So it's since changed, but that was going to be empty space, and I was going to draw some more fire and leaves that were coming down.
Okay. No, because I like the pattern that you got going in over here, and I was like, oh, it'd be great if that was on this side too. That's why I was asking.
Yeah. That's exactly where it went.
Yeah. Okay. No. That's cool. I like it a lot. I really do.
Thank you for confirming that I went the right direction.
I see that you do mixed media watercolor before, because this basically from this side. Oh, you can't even see my mouse on the screen, I don't think. Yeah, you can a little bit.
That's okay.
From final sketch to rough looks like that's all digital, but this side here is obviously traditional. Do you tend to go traditional first before you go on the computer?
Yeah, I used to not go traditional first. I used to start on the computer, and I found that if I did that, the computer led the way for me instead of me leading the way.
Yeah.
So I started to. Now I always draw a sketch first. I'll draw numerous sketches, and then I bring it into the computer, and I will play around with just the sketch in Illustrator or Photoshop, depending on what I'm hoping the end result will be, although that can change.
Yeah.
And then once I'm happy with that edit to the final sketches, what I'll do is I'll print it out and then I'll sketch it again and play around with watercolors or colored pencils or whatever medium I like. And once I'm happy with the final draftsmanship of the piece, I will ink it by hand, although this one has no stroke. I decided that the final piece will not be inked like my My Little Ponies. But for this one, I just colored it digitally, but I started everything by pencil.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's really nice. I'm just looking at all your just going from the top final sketch to the color test and seeing how seeing the difference a little bit.
I thought it would be better to have no stroke, no outline, because I wanted to have this reminiscence of nature to it, and I love drawing character art with line work, but I just felt in this story it would be more tactile and organic to not have a stroke.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the exact same thing. Like I feel without that, because I'm an old school cartoonist. I like my black outline around my characters. I love that type of stuff. But I'm also on this side of my room. You saw that side of my drawing area, but on that side of my room, I have children's book collections, Dr. Seuss, Golden Books, things like that. Dr. Seuss obviously had the thick line for the most part, but you look at Golden Books and other children's books, and you're not seeing that outline. And it's this, sometimes painterly feel to it, or looks like it was done in colored pencil or whatever.
Or cut on construction paper.
Exactly. And I'm like, I like looking at that stuff. Even though I don't do it, it's the type of stuff I like looking at it. It's like that old story with Jim Henson. He would go to puppet festivals and he would pass by anyone who's doing Muppet style puppets, and he would look for people doing different types of puppets, whether it was marionettes or whatever was kind of experimental. He was like really into that. He didn't want to see what he was doing.
Even if you don't draw in that style, I agree with you. I will learn something about the depth or layering or perspective just by looking at it. And a lot of times, one thing I've been playing around with lately is playing with the background being lighter instead of it being darker. But coming from reading so many comic books, there's so many times where I'd be reading and looking at artwork where the background is darker, and then under Steve Rude looking at Ganem or Elfgren, or I'm trying to think of some other artists that the classic illustrators, you could see that they would make things sometimes lighter in the background. Like
they were playing with the atmospheric effects and stuff. That was,
and I definitely see that in children's books too. So it's funny how many different types of artists and styles inspire each other. It doesn't have to be in the same world.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. Let's see. I'm gonna. No, I mean, there's so much I want to talk to you about.
It's hard to know where to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. Hold on, I want to remove from stream, bring us back. In all honesty, I haven't talked to you in a long time, but I'm familiar with your work. Yeah. So it's not like, I honestly, I don't usually write down questions. I just kind of write down some notes.
Sure.
But I didn't really write notes down because I know the stuff you worked on. Right. I want to talk about Sesame Street. I was going to just text Mike, see if he was coming back in.
Oh, let me know. If you don't mind, I just in the whole world of me working on both design and comic books. So just to give you an idea of how I have to switch paces, because people ask me about it all the time. And essentially, it's, I like working 2 part-time jobs. It gives me a little versatility and flexibility, and I like that. So while I'm working on the environmental comic, I also got to work on one of the style guides for Dune. So that's been exciting for me.
Oh, wow.
So I got to work on graphic design and emblems and some character artwork or very simplified character artwork. And I can't show you any of that, but it's hard to discuss what I do for a living, because I will go from something that's really, really graphic and marketing heavy to something that's publishing and comic book oriented.
Yeah, it's and how is that for you, switching styles, and switching thought process and working?
It's hard. I wish it was just a flip you could do.
Yeah.
But I will switch everything. I will switch the music I'm listening to, the movies I watch at night. My sketches in the morning will be different, and I just have to get in a completely different realm. So, when I was working on Dune, I'd have to put on music that got me in the whole I'm on a desert fighting for my life type of tone. And then, if you're drawing fairies, then you have completely different music on.
Yeah. No, I get that. It's nice. I'm kind of the same way. I had somebody once tell me, don't listen or watch things based on what you're working on. Not like not like a licensed property, but if you were working on like a pirate stuff, don't watch pirate movies and don't listen to. But for me, I think it helps inspire me because I can get these great visuals in my head, and and I know sometimes if you're watching, especially these days, you're getting camera angles that you may have not thought of. And so I'm like, for me, I'll sit down and watch a pirate movie without a problem, and it'll inspire me to draw pirates as opposed to, oh, well, I'm doing a pirate, let me watch a cop film. It's
right.
I don't do that. Is that, I mean, you're saying you listen or watch stuff that will get you in the zone. What is that type of stuff for you though? Is it, when you're working on Dune, what is it that's inspiring you?
So the first thing I did was I rewatched David Lynch's Dune. But I only watched it once because this is going to be a completely different movie. And then you don't want that to submerge yourself too much, Yeah. And then, of course, if it's based on a book, I do love listening to audiobooks. So I was listening to the audiobook quite often, especially if there was a scene I really loved that I was listening to in a specific character. So, if I was working on one of the ladies, I maybe listen to one of her paragraphs and her personality. Or if I was working on Paul, maybe I'm listening to a little bit of Paul's story or Duke Leto, which is fun for me because my name's Leto. But then I would just put on something completely different. If I was drawing a fight scene I just put on fast-paced music.
Okay.
It could be very vague or very.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense because and when you're working, are you more music, podcast? What do you listen to more?
I have to switch it up because I get sick of the music, and then you get sick. Just same thing with the design and the illustration. I get bored pretty quickly, which I guess works though, right?
Yeah. But I think that happens to a lot of creative people.
Thank you.
No, I mean, like you get an idea for a project and you start working on it, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I don't want to work on it because I have a better idea for something else now, But let me ask you this, because have you ever done anything that was your own, like creator-owned work or do you have an idea for anything?
Well, I mean, this was co-created. The Halloween Legion is co-created with me and Martin Powell, and this was published by Dark Horse Comics.
Okay.
So that was exciting for me. Me and Martin Powell created it, and me and Thomas Boatwright illustrated the book. And this is about a group of superheroes that are Halloween inspired, that are all about being different and how that's okay, it can unify you. So this is one of my books that I was really excited to be a part of, and hopefully there'll be a sequel one day.
That's great. Oh, that's great. I mean, and do you prefer, just out of curiosity, do you prefer to do something creator owned, or do you like it better working on other people's projects and just kind of having all this different creativity thrown at you? I
like doing a little bit of all of it. I like doing the design, and I like doing licensed properties, and I like doing my own thing. I'm not sure if that's because I feel really fortunate and I'm afraid of losing steam or something. But I also do love juggling. So I will always have a personal project. I'm showing you this one. I always knock over the water in these sessions.
Yeah.
I put it on the floor so I can have it, but then it always gets knocked over. This is what I'm working on about my experiences in the comic book world. I don't know what it's.
Hold on, I'm going to give you the screen so we can see it a little better.
Sure. This is the first page, me working on something.
Very nice.
And it's an India ink. Just to go back to my Jack Cole love, and somebody I can't remember his name. Wait, I'm going to find out the other artist one. I'll be right back. I don't mean to leave those things blank. Gotta be right.
Hold on. And while you're over there, I'm bringing Mike in.
All right.
Hey, welcome to IncrediChat. Oh,
you're too late. We already did that.
I know. Well, hey, it's Diana Leto. I'm sorry. I was helping out Lance, Diana. But again, I'm happy that you're here with us tonight.
I will call you Mr. Lopez since I did it incorrectly.
Oh, well, you don't have to confuse me. I'm not Mr. Lopez here. Don't you see who I am here? I'm the Incredi King.
Oh, God. Here we go now. You guys, I actually need another glass of water, so I'm going to be right back.
All right. Well, I don't know what you guys have talked about. Close out your screen so we have at least looks nice here, Grazia.
I don't think I can. I don't know if I can leave you.
Yeah.
Let me see if I leave you.
Can you remove yourself from the screen? Hey, there it is. All right, because this looks better now. So, Diana, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
So, what did you and Grazia talk about so far? You do so much anyways. Did you talk about what you're doing now? I don't know.
We did talk about what I was doing now. We jumped all over the place.
All right, cool. I mean, I'm sure, and I know we've talked about this too. You're doing a lot of creative work while we're all on quarantine anyways.
Yeah.
So.
Non-stop over here. But I wanted to save Sesame Street and Muppets for you, so I'm not sure if you had Sesame Street or Muppet question.
Oh, so gosh, what do I have? Sesame? I don't know. I don't know. Jeez. Have you done? I don't think you've done anything new. Have you done anything new for Sesame, or are you working on anything new that you can talk about?
The only thing I recently worked on helping out with the rebranding for Farscape for the Jim Henson Company.
Oh, that's right, because that's coming back, right?
Yeah, there was an anniversary that passed, I think, late 2019. So any of the marketing graphics that you see for Farscape, I helped the Jim Henson Company out.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
And I know, because I know there's been a big push for that show to come back anyways, too.
That was big anniversary that passed, I think.
late 2019. So any of the marketing graphics that you see for Farscape,
that is weird. What is that coming from?
I did not know. Yeah. And I know, because I know there's been a big push for that show.
Where's, oh my goodness. This is so weird. It's not coming from my,
Is that you?
it is not coming from me. That's very weird.
Oh, I think it's me.
What's going on?
It's me. It's me talking again. It like
Mike, I don't know if it was my computer because I don't know what happens when I've never been off a stream as the host. Oh, well, or it could be that more than likely, Mike, because I know you do your what do they call it? The watching the viewing parties.
Yes.
You may have had a window open and it was playing it back.
I know.
Cylon Diana was talking.
Yes.
No, we had two Dianas. The other Diana had a goatee like on
Diana 2.0.
Before I forget, I went since I stepped out to get water. I'm just going to give myself the screen for a second. I went into my bedroom, and this is the book I was telling you about.
Oh yeah, no, I've never seen this one. Thank you for telling me about it.
So
That's cool.
let me get that back. There you go.
I feel so out of the loop because I only came back here, but that's okay.
You're so late.
I always like to see Diana. Diana, I mean, I don't know if you guys talked about this. This is a good question we can maybe talk about just for a few minutes. What did you guys talk about conventions yet?
No, not really.
No, we're gonna get into that.
Well, let's because we have about 5-10 minutes roughly. What's going on with what do you think is going to happen with the conventions, Diana? Because you do a lot of shows. You did a lot here on the East Coast, and then the West Coast. You've been doing a lot. Do you think we'll get back to that?
I was sad they were canceled, although I think they made the right decision. I don't know what's going to happen. I hope they still have as much momentum when they start up again. I miss going to the conference.
Well, we have our con families. I mean, that's how we all got to know each other.
I know.
Yeah. And you form strong.
It's like an area where you go and you're surrounded by your people.
Absolutely, and you build like really like a good network of folks, and I think that's again that's something that we miss. I mean, yeah, like we're all friends because of it. I'm not friends with Rosie.
Yeah, I adore him all the time too. So,
what else did you guys talk about?
We talked about a lot of. While I was gone, did you bring up your Sesame Street work? Because I was waiting for you since
I said that you wanted to talk about something Muppet orientated, and then I talked a little bit about Farscape twice.
Farscape, fantastic sci-fi.
Yes.
So every now and then I do that sound that they do that in the theme.
Yeah.
You know that weird thing. My wife hates it.
Well, I've never watched Farscape. I mean, I've met Gigi Edgy a billion times, and she's awesome. But and again, I'm a bad Muppet fan because last night we were sitting and talking with Cassine. You know Cassine and Tim.
Okay.
And I haven't watched the new Dark Crystal show yet. And
I haven't either. I know. I feel. I don't know. Something's wrong with us.
I know, and they just announced that they're in Labyrinth. They're going to do a Labyrinth sequel now.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy? And then there's the new Fraggle Rock, which is
the new Fraggle Rock was great too.
I saw
about the new Muppet reboots.
I know, it is. The Muppets are back again. But it's funny just on this Muppet note, and I've had this conversation with some of our mutual friends. I think now is the time that the world and again goes for like a lot of the stuff that you draw and stuff that Grazia draws. I think now is the time for a lot of this more joyful, happy kind of stuff to be out there, like the classic characters again. Whether it be Muppets, whether it be ponies. I know Diana, you're a big Popeye fan.
Oh, we didn't talk about that because I'm both of us huge Popeye. So I know it's a project too.
So I truly think that this is the time where those kind of properties really might shine now because people want that like happy escape. Like I think like the world of like The Walking Dead, like this whole like apocalyptic kind of thing. I think we might take a break from that for a while because we kind of lived like a little bit of an apocalyptic lifestyle for it.
The guy who created Black Mirror said, "No more Black Mirror. The world doesn't need that right now."
Well, I saw that too. I was like, yeah, because we're I mean, we truly are living it. I mean, you guys just had an earthquake like what, a couple of days ago?
That's right.
Yeah, there's quite a few earthquakes out here. Fortunately, knock on wood, I haven't had any big ones. But
Any
it's surreal.
any murder hornets yet?
No.
Oh,
You know what you need is a show about Muppet murder hornets.
there you go.
They can all be different colors.
Well, you know, I don't know if you know. I don't know, Diana, if you know our friend Jan.
Oh, I don't think I do.
Yes,
It goes by the Janimal, right? You're talking about
Janimal.
Oh,
it goes by the Janimal. Yeah.
So he posted something the other day, which I thought was pretty funny. Because he posted about the earthquake, the protest. He's like, "What's wrong, 2020? You can't have an earthquake, protests, and a pandemic, and introduce the murder hornets and not do anything with it." So
It's right there.
I mean, you don't need a writer. Life is happening all around us. So cool. Grazia, do you have the links? Because I know we're going to switch over in a minute.
You sent me the link. It's in my Facebook feed,
No,
I believe.
you have the link. You have the link so people can go to Diana's website.
Oh, yes. I set them up.
Because the whole our real purpose of this, as we all know, is that we wanted to support our artist friends and stuff. So
I spelled Twitter wrong. I feel bad. Give me one second.
want artwork.
I'm going to tweet her.
If you want artwork, if you want books, Diana's the person to go to. So, and Diana, actually, I sent, and I'll tell you this again too. I sent somebody your way. We through another person that we know, Scott Shaw. He posted something about an artist the other day.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's
No.
great.
Yeah, he posted this young woman who's out there. I think maybe in San Diego area, like where he is, and he found this girl's art. He posted it, and I reached out to her, and I told her, look up Diana Leto. So
That's sweet.
do that because women, and we know we need to get our buddy Ray on here and talk about women in comics because I know he's involved with women in comics. So that could be something that maybe we could do later on this summer.
Yeah.
You guys
We got to also get you back on and talk about Popeye and all the other stuff that we didn't talk about. There's so much.
And
There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yes.
so,
I keep forgetting your love of Popeye.
That's okay.
I didn't forget.
I'm sorry. We talked about a lot of stuff, Mike, while you weren't here. So
Probably me.
So you guys have a good time with Lance.
yes.
Lance is awesome.
Yes, and we will talk soon, Diana.
What?
I said we will definitely talk soon. We always talk anyways. But.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for coming on for our final night of part one of our final night of IncrediWeek here. And we're going to shift over to the following IncrediWeek. Rosie, if you want to close out with Diana, I'm going to go over and start the other show up now.
All right. Okay. Well, Diana, thank you for coming in. Obviously, we're definitely going to want to have you back. It was a pleasure talking to you. I don't get to talk to you as much as I'd like to. I know we both have crazy busy schedules.
Yeah.
It was
Thank
really.
you for having me on. This was fun.
Yeah. Anytime. And like Mike said, we'll definitely bring you on with other guests maybe, and we'll definitely talk. And I'll try to reach out a little bit more too, and we can talk.
Sometimes you take a social media break.
Yeah. No, I know. Like I told you, I'll go on social media to post, and I basically just get off. I don't really look around anymore.
Yeah.
Well,
that's very wise. You don't want to be stuck on social media all day.
Yeah, it gets a little too much. And it takes away from working. So I'm gonna let you go because we are already past 9:30. We need to get
Go ahead. Go ahead and barbara it up.
Yeah, we will. All right. Have a great night.
Bye.
Bye. Whoops. Yeah, there you go. Hey guys, thanks for joining us. Stay tuned. There's another stream starting right now. I'm going to close out of here. Mike's starting that stream. It's with Lance Falk. It's going to be amazing. I'll see you guys over there. All right? Have a great night.